I've always seem to be signing signatures in front of you, Cody.
I know, I'm pretty good at it, aren't I? You don't want to know what you signed last time. All right, so you guys ready to get started?
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1. All right, the Hunt for Success, Robert Finke, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
I've been thinking about this ever since we talked last week over text, what my first question would be. And Ryan and I are really big into personal development. We go to a lot of seminars, motivational seminars. We read a lot of books. We watch a lot of videos, listen to a lot of motivational podcasts. And it seems like, and Ryan, tell me if you agree or disagree, that every time we're listening to someone speak or reading a book, they always refer to mountain climbing.
How about that? Well, I kind of see that in you, the whole hunt for success. You're striving for success, life's a journey. So, but yeah, mountain climbing is definitely one step after the next to get up high. So.
Do you find that a lot of people that are into mountain climbing are also highly motivated and successful in business?
Maybe not per se in business, but a lot of my friends are very successful in their lives, marathon runners. An older gentleman that I actually met on the top of Mount Shasta about 10 years ago. He's been a good friend of mine ever since, and he is still doing marathons. And, it takes a very driven person to run 26.2 miles.
And climb Mount Shasta.
Another friend that I climbed Mount Rainier with is really successful in as a firefighter, managing departments, and worked his way up the ladder that way. So, as far as the
correlation between the two?
Well, correlation between success and business, business kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way, because you could be super successful in life and without being a businessman.
Well, and that's kind of one of the common feedback we get on this podcast, especially with our name, is the Hunt for Success. And commonly people say, well, are you just going to have millionaires on your show? And the answer is no. There's a lot of different definitions of success. And our first guest was somebody who was in his 40s and didn't have much family around, and so he was unhappy with his job. So he decided to sell everything, buy an RV, and go on the road with a goal of making it 10 years, with having to make money on the road and starting his career over again and going on this big adventure. So to us, that was kind of success, right? Is saying, I'm done with working for the man, and I'm going to go and see what I can do.
Yeah, I like the guy already.
Yeah, you would like Emerson. We're trying to get him to start a podcast. He left about 3 weeks ago, and I said, start a podcast, because if you're successful and you get a lot of followings, you can make a little bit of money on the road and be really easy to do and really compelling story. And so, but he hasn't yet. He sent some pictures, and he told everyone to say hi too, right? So, so it's not that we just want to have people that have been financially successful. I think just knowing very little about your story, and I know very little on purpose because I wanted to save it for the show, that there's a lot of success there in going through what you went through, and just climbing a mountain is success, right? You got to have that feeling when you get to the top of achievement, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Whether it's 14,000 foot plus peak, or just getting to the top, the top of Tom, Dick, and Harry Mountain over here, it always feels good to be on top. And
on top of what mountain? Tom, Dick, and Harry?
Well, there's a mountain above Mirror Lake near Mount Hood. It's called Tom, Dick, and Harry Mountain, and it's kind of cool. It doesn't take much to get to the top. I don't know what the elevation is, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 feet.
So kind of a beginner.
Yeah, it's just a really easy kind of walk up. But, whether you're walking up something like that or, a higher peak, it always feels good to be on top, man. You made an accomplishment.
So before we get into the story here, how long have you been mountain climbing?
My first passion really is backpacking and just being in the wilderness. And I'd say mountain climbing kind of branched off from my love of backpacking. And I've been backpacking since I was, 12 or 13 years old, maybe even before that.
Like long,
But
like overnight long?
yeah. 4 or 5 day trip, week-long trips. They're my favorite lengths.
Who took you out first? What was your first experience?
My brother, he probably took me out first. Soon after that, I got involved with, friends through school and friends' brothers, through school. We'd go to the Tetons and, backpack around there for a couple weeks. And, just had a great growing up, did a lot of backpacking in Yosemite. But, Yosemite also got a love for looking up at those granite walls and going, man, I really like to climb. And so, I never really climbed in Yosemite, but once I moved to Alaska as a 19-year-old kid, I started getting into climbing some peaks in the Chugach Mountains around.
And what took you to Alaska at 19?
It's just adventure. School was never my thing, and as a kid, I never really knew what I wanted to do. So I had a friend that lived up there, and just went up to visit him one summer. And 6 months later, I'm packing up my Jeep and driving to Alaska. So yeah, it was pretty adventurous, and climbed and did tons of skiing. I really like cross-country skiing and snowshoeing and just being out in the woods.
Downhill skiing too, or is it all cross?
Not so much. I was a pretty good snowboarder, but cross-country skiing is my thing.
Because a lot of the downhill in Alaska requires some mountain climbing, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, they have Alyeska, which is, a world-renowned ski resort south of Anchorage. But if you're into backcountry skiing and cross-country skiing, Nordic skiing, you could ski out your back door.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do, and ski down a few blocks and go ice skating.
So when did you leave Alaska?
I was there from 1979 to 85.
Okay. And then did you move back to the Northwest?
I moved down to California for a job. I did a job down there for about 9 years, and then that fell apart, and went directly to Portland. Got another job up here, and just been exploring the Northwest ever since, which has been over 20 years now. 23, 24 years I've been here.
So what are some of the big peaks that you've climbed?
The two tallest peaks I've climbed are Rainier and Shasta. My love is just, I love Hood. I've climbed, or I summited Hood 10 times. And, I like, for some reason, to keep going back and doing things over and over. So I've climbed Mount St Helens a number of times, and the Three Sisters, Mount Thielsen. Just keep going back. And
Now, it seems like the only knowledge I have of people that climb Mount Hood and climbing Mount Hood is when it's on the news because someone gets hurt, right? And then they talk about the different routes and the difficulty of it. But from what I understand, Mount Hood is one of the more difficult, or can be one of the more difficult mountains to climb, depending on what route you take. Am I correct?
Well, yeah, the easiest way up is the south side route. And it used to be, mountains change, with wind conditions and rocks falling and stuff, routes change, mountains change. And it used to be that the easy way up was going up the south side from Timberline Lodge and going to Hogsback and then the Pearly Gates. And I've done that numerous times. And over the years, I kept seeing it getting, more and more difficult. And difficult means dangerous.
So this is the route you're talking about here, isn't it? Because isn't Timberline right in here?
That's exactly it. And you can see as it takes that little jog to the left, they're taking you up
So where does the ski area stop?
the top of the Palmer, right about where that 6 is.
Okay.
Right in
Oh,
here.
no, yeah, right. From the 9 down is actually where the ski area is. The Magic Mile, they call it. And that's the Palmer Glacier you're skiing on.
Yeah.
And so you said you called it the Great Knoll or the Hunchback?
Hogsback
Hogsback.
is just a ridge that brings you up to the Pearly Gates, and then the Pearly Gates is a route to the summit. And you know, I've done that over and over again, and depending on the snowpack and ice melt and stuff, it was getting more difficult and more difficult. So the last time where I had my accident, I was actually going up with a couple other people, and I wanted to take them up the easiest route possible, so I took them up a different route. And
Different than this one here?
same side. It's called, we did a combination of the West Rib and then the Old Chute.
Go back to that image that had the multiple routes.
So I don't think that was.
That's not Mount Hood.
Yeah, that's K2. A little bit different.
It's for a different podcast.
So this is during the summer, right, that you're going?
Well, the climbing season is, June, July,
And
maybe later in May.
Timberline is still open because that's a big glacier, and so they actually allow skiing up there during the summer, right?
You could they ski year round on Mount Hood on the upper part of the Palmer Glacier. I mean, the lifts go up there, and they do snowboard camps up there and stuff. But
So let's talk about the 10th time you climbed Mount Hood. I assume that's probably the last time you were up there, right?
it was the last time I attempted any sort of climbing, yeah.
And so you went up the easy route.
I tried to balance or put everything in our favor. I wanted a successful time. I took this one gal up there the year before, and she wasn't quite in shape enough to do it. So she opted to turn back around. And
How far did you guys make it before she turned around?
we were pretty good ways above the Palmer. I can't quite remember because, I felt the carpet pulled out. It's always a little depressing to have to turn around when conditions are good.
Sure.
But we turned around, and so my idea for...
So the whole group turned around, not just her.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a safe thing to do. And so I really wanted to put everything in our favor for a successful climb. For the next shot, I took her up there, and we actually did it in a 2-day climb. So what we did is we climbed directly to the base of Elimination Rock, and there's a beautiful little saddle there where I knew was protected from the wind and a good place to set up a tent. So there was 3 of us. We set up a tent. We're able to leave, midday. Had a nice leisurely hike up to 9,500 feet.
So this is a separate trip from the time you turned around,
So this is of next year.
the next year.
Yeah.
And did she get in shape and go back?
Yeah, she took it a little bit more seriously and was in a little bit better shape. But just making it into a 2-day trip is better for those that aren't maybe in optimal shape.
Yeah.
So
And this is Illumination Rock. Where is that picture?
that's from Elimination Rock right there. That's not my picture, but it is. There's a little saddle that is protected from the wind, and it was just a perfect spot to set up a tent. So we took our time. It was April 31st, and again, I wanted to do it early in the year, so there's plenty of snow, and the ice conditions were super stable. They hadn't started melting out yet at all, and so conditions were just perfect. It was snowing when we left, but I knew that weather conditions were going to clear up. So by the time we were halfway to Illumination Rock, you know, the sun was starting to peeking out. We are getting above the clouds. Set up a tent there at 9,500 feet, right there in the saddle of Illumination Rock, and 17 degrees out at night, and just perfect conditions. Snow, you don't sink down into it. It's nice and crusty. You can stay on top, yet it's not icy. It hasn't been melting, so you got a good grip. And it just, everything was perfect. We got her all the way up to 9,500 feet. She was feeling good. Our little team of three, we're all just happy, and everything's going good. The next morning when we woke up, we only had a couple thousand feet to go. So it was just a great way to do it.
So you got a lot of confidence going into the next day?
Yeah, super confidence. I did pierce my air mattress, my little sleeping pad, with my cramp on. So I was sleeping basically on the snow, but I jammed some clothes under there, and I could sleep pretty well in cold conditions. So everything was good, and we got up the next morning about 3 and figured it'd take maybe 3 or 4 hours to get to the summit for them from there, and took off. The climb was perfect. The conditions were perfect. It was clear out and great view. Climb went, very nice.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm picturing in my head you guys climbing up the hill. Is it like in the movies where you guys are all roped together and you got your is it a pickaxe? What do they call those?
Your ice axe?
Yeah.
Ice axe?
Your ice axe, mountain axe. I was doing everything for a successful climb. I wanted to get her to the top. That was my goal. And one way to do that, one theory in mountain climbing, is fast and light, right? So light means you leave some things behind, and you get up there as quickly as you can, and you get back down as quickly as you can, because, the higher up there, you got a little bit more danger going. Weather could come in or whatever. So we decided to leave, the ropes behind. We had one axe per person, instead of, a lot of times I'll climb it with 2,
Mm-hmm.
but light and fast. So we just wanted to, and I've done it many times, I just, go up there and be careful. And
So it wasn't your first time going light and leaving the ropes and
no,
stuff?
not at all. And, it was all agreed upon. There was only one other team up there that day, and they did rope up. And it's always easy to second guess yourself all the time. And next time, I would definitely rope up, but it would be way worse in my mind if one of them fell than me. But it was me, so I have to suck it up.
So what happened? So did you guys summit?
Yeah, we summited. We had a great time. We did talk to that other team on the top.
Can we take a look at some of those pictures you emailed me?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah. We had some snacks up there, and after not too long, I suggested, hey, we need to head back down. We might have been on the top probably less than an hour, and we started heading down. But
So is that the summit there?
it's not. The summit is gotten hidden behind there. It's, I guess you'd call it a false summit.
Okay.
A little ridge heading up right when you get up the...
That looks like a summit picture.
Yep,
there.
that's definitely summit. That is actually after my fall, and I'm under that pile of jackets
Okay.
with my rescuers.
So you guys summit and you head back down. I feel like we're getting to the meat of the story here.
Oh yeah, I fell soon after we left the top, and for the life of me, it's been 4 years now, and I still kind of wonder why I fell. I don't remember. I remember self-arresting after the fall, that's trying to stop yourself with your ice axe.
Okay.
And I remember.
You don't remember what triggered what did you slip?
That's what
or
I'm
was it-
wondering. I don't know what triggered. It's pretty, textbook. You're walking when you're down climbing a mountain and it's, that's steep. You're climbing backwards. You're facing the mountain and stepping backwards.
Like climbing down a ladder?
Yeah. So it's step, step, plunge your mountain axe, step, step, plunge. So
So were you on a pretty steep side then when you fell?
it was about 50 degrees. So
Yeah.
it was steep. And, once you fall, you're going to go. I remember trying to self-arrest and not able to. And then I remember.
And by self-arresting, you're talking about taking your axe and plowing it in the ice to try to slow down, or
Exactly. And they teach that in all the mountaineering classes and stuff like that. And all the books talk about self-arrest. And so. I do remember, I fell a long ways. I fell from just under 11,000 feet on the mountain to 10,005, where I came to rest at the base of Crater Rock.
okay.
So you do the math. It was a long fall. So I remember at one point thinking, the route that we came up, I don't want to fall back down that route.
Because there's drop-offs?
Yeah, it had some steep areas and there was some exposed rock. It wasn't all fluffy snow, right?
So as you're falling,
As
your
I'm
decision
falling,
making,
I've been thinking, you got to see where you're going. And, I tried to make it a point to look and see where I was going. And all I saw was white, blue, white, blue, white, blue, white, blue. So
were you tumbling or?
oh, yeah, tumbling. So I was looking at the sky one second and the snow in front of my face the next second.
Wow.
But there was, I was at the mercy of gravity and whatever forces were with me.
So did you find yourself panicking, or were you kind of calm? I mean, what was your state of mind
I'm not
like?
a very panicky guy, it just life passing by, right? And I came to a stop and, I looked up the mountain to see how far they were, and they were a long ways off.
So did you end up falling a different direction than you guys went up?
A little bit, yeah. I went as, gravity takes you versus kind of traversing. We traversed up the mountain, and which was probably a good thing because Crater Rock was there to stop us all. And Crater Rock's a big rock. It's a feature that you see when you look up on the mountain from Portland.
Okay.
But yeah, I tried to stand up and my leg was all floppy, so I knew I took my backpack off and threw it on the snow. And
So you knew right away your leg was broken.
I knew I was kind of hosed. I had visions of scooting down the mountain, but I figured I'd just wait at least till they got to me. And I waved my arms around to let them know that I was okay. And ironically, there's 3 other guys that we met that I told you, that other team. There's another 3 guys. One of them was a physician assistant, and the other 2 were nurses or EMTs.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, I was like, how lucky could I be? For one thing, I didn't die. I stopped. And now I've got, a physician assistant to render a little bit of first aid. Unfortunately, he didn't bring up his pain meds, but, he was still able to take care of me and,
Yeah.
administer some first aid and make sure I wasn't in shock. And
Well, I'm sure that had been painful.
That's what I was wondering. What was your pain level at
the
this
pain
point?
level grew. I mean, the shock is a good thing, and it really takes pain away. Once, the reality set in and shock was subsided, pain came in pretty heavy. And, I was kind of rolling back and forth like I like to do when I'm in pain on the ground.
Mhm.
And, they just said, don't move, keep your back straight. You know, they were concerned about back injuries and neck injuries. You know, I
Sure.
just tumbled down, close to 500 feet, and yeah, I could have very easily, hurt my back
Yeah.
or neck,
Or spine or, yeah.
and which I didn't. I was really lucky. My only injury was, I was bleeding a little bit from my face where my sunglasses cut into my face, but the only injury, I broke my tibia and fibula.
And which ones are the tibia, fibula? Let's quiz Ryan. Which
Lower-
ones are the tibia and fibula?
Lower leg.
Lower leg. Broke my lower leg.
Like below the knee.
Below the knee, a little above the ankle. My orthopedic surgeon said it was probably the worst one he's seen. It took him a long time to piece me back together.
Just shattered.
It shattered.
Yeah.
And, it didn't shatter from slipping, but sometime in that fall, I'm tumbling, that crampon grabbed onto the ground,
Ah.
and that crampon grabs on the ground. It's like, hey, this is, a good place to be, and the rest of the body's going, nope, we're going this way, and just snapped.
But you don't remember feeling it snap. Did you black out any of that time?
No, I was aware of what's going on. And I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the break. I tried to stand up and say, I'm okay, guys, but my leg was floppy. It didn't want to stand up.
So how long did it take for the rest of your team to come back to where you fell?
Well, the 3 guys on rope, 2 stayed with my 2 climbers, and the one physician assistant just kind of did a beeline to me. It took him about 45 minutes to get to me. All the others took, an hour and a half.
And so is this where you fell or is this back at?
That's exactly where I fell. Those are pictures of a couple of the rescuers that came up once, the emergency, they were summoned.
So
They climbed up from Timberline.
they didn't take a helicopter up.
No, they didn't take a helicopter. Matter of fact, they might have taken a snowcat up to the top of the Palmer as far as a snowcat could go, and they might have climbed from there, but that's still, a couple thousand feet they've got to climb. And they drug a 600-foot rope to lower me down on. And, that's heavy equipment that they're bringing up, this toboggan and whatever first aid kits come up. But most importantly, they brought pain meds, and that was a good thing for me.
So it looks like one of them's on the phone. It looks like one of them's on the phone. There's cell reception up there, right?
There is cell reception.
So they were able to call in and
They were
report.
calling before I landed. Yep.
I couldn't imagine if you were someplace that didn't have cell reception. Because I've been up there skiing and been talking on the chairlift.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, no. I love climbing in places where you don't have reception, but, there's drawbacks to that, too.
What's the drawbacks to not having reception?
Not being rescued.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess that would be a drawback. So,
Rescuers were great. They had a sense of humor. They took care of me. Had numerous shots of morphine up there. And one of the last things they did after they wrapped me up like a burrito and put me on the toboggan was to put this big plastic shield over my face. And I said, you know what? I don't want that on. Leave that off. I'm a little claustrophobic. And they go, don't worry about that. I got something for that. And they gave me another shot. And I tell you what, after that shot, everything was rosy. I was having a good time. I got to...
like Dilaudid or something?
Yep, I think it might have been. I got to... they got me down just over the hog's back. And as soon as I got over the hog's back, I said, okay, I could ski down from here and let me out. I was feeling so good. I didn't even have skis with me, and I wanted them to let me go.
So Ryan and I hunt a lot, and there's services you can subscribe to.
Spot. And
Yeah, where if you get like we're going to Argentina next year, and you can buy it for like a week or a month or a year. Where if you do fall and break your leg, they come and rescue you. Do they have that for mountain climbers as well?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that works all over. And of course, there's a series of events, I think, that happens once you push that button. You know, the person that receives the button isn't going to jump in their vehicle to get you. They radio and figure out what, you know, agency is going to be the one to be scrambled to come get you.
So, do you get back to the Timberline Lodge? Is that where you first get to?
Yeah, that's where the rescuers got me into an ambulance. And then I was driven by ambulance from Timberline to Emmanuel Hospital in Portland. So the whole, I didn't get to, I mean, I might have fallen at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get to Timberline, well, I didn't get to Emmanuel till I think 10 o'clock at night. So I was up there a long time. It takes a long time, you know. They kind of have to, you know, they're lowering me by rope, you know, on that toboggan. So it took a while.
So, how dangerous is Mount Hood? Because it seems like every year there's on the news, on the local news, they'll have a rescue attempt, and they'll have the helicopters out, and it'll take over the news for a day or two.
Yeah, I think 2016 was pretty clear, but generally you're probably right. Some year there's a couple falls, and lately it's all been kind of in this area. Mount Hood is a heavily climbed mountain. It's you know, one mountain, you know, in the world, I think. I think there's one other mountain in Japan that's climbed more, but it's a heavily climbed mountain, and, you know, accidents will happen, and it's a numbers game. But
Do they have a limit per day of how many climbers can be up there?
I don't believe they do. It's a self-check-in. You just, you know, go into the climber's cave there at Timberline, sign in, and then you're on your own. Most people start their climb anywhere from like midnight to 2 a.m. from Timberline, and you're self-managed.
And so you don't have to buy like a permit. Because I know when Ryan climbed Mount St Helens last year, you had to get a permit like a year in advance, didn't you?
Yeah, it goes on sale like in March or something, and I mean they go live on the website, and within like 15 minutes, every single weekend is already booked out, and
Yeah.
I think it's something like 100 climbers a day, or I'd have to double check.
It is
but
limited on Mount St Helens. It's a little more managed on Mount St Helens, and I'm not sure why.
probably because of the eruption and whatnot, and they want people, I think, generally to stay right on. I mean, there's not a beaten path once you start to hike it, as you know. But
That is right. You know, Mount St. Helens has one climbing route, and you're asked to stay on it. And they do have climbers, Forest Service climbers that are actually on the trail, checking passes and whatnot. Mount Hood, not so much. They don't, you know, there's no Forest Service employees that are climbing, watching other climbers and stuff.
So there's been a lot of fatalities up at Mount Hood, right?
There's always been, you know, there was one this year even. There's been a lot of fatalities on there. I don't remember what year it was. That one church group lost, I mean, I think that's been like 25 years ago that the church group, you know, lost, I don't know, 15 people one time during a storm.
Wow.
Maybe it was 7. I mean, it was very significant, and people still talk about it. But upon reading about that, you know, they were descending in the storm, and when you descend Mount Hood, the natural progression for the descent doesn't take you the way that you need to go. It's like if you roll the ball down, isn't the way that you need to go to get back to timberline.
To avoid danger, like to avoid
It
cliffs,
takes you to
or-
the wrong place. It takes you into, I think it's like the sandy head wall and, cliffs and bad areas.
Where you
And
can
so
get
I
lost,
think, maybe a lot of them were exposed to just, elements and, they probably froze or.
Robert, the one I remember is when I was skiing, and they had, I think they were Black Hawk helicopters
Oh, yeah.
that were circling the mountain, and one of them crashed
Yeah.
while they were searching for somebody. And I believe the pilots didn't survive that. And that was 6 or 7, maybe longer, years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was on the national news. You remember that, Ryan?
Vaguely.
And I remember seeing the Blackhawks flying around while I was skiing, and then the next day is when I heard that there was one of them crashed
Yeah.
into the mountain.
They have some good video footage of that, and you could still pull it up. And again, I don't remember the details. I think that the conditions on the mountain were like glare ice, like very dangerous for falling, and rescue operations were really risky. And I don't know why the helicopter crashed, but
So,
some crazy stuff.
what do you say about the critics? Because every time it's on the news, there's someone's been hurt up there. There's why are these people climbing the mountain, knowing that they might fall and then jeopardize the rescuers' lives?
Rescuers are volunteers. It's not a paid position. It's, I don't know. I think those are probably those armchair athletes that don't get out much, and, accidents are going to happen. And personally, as soon as I get out of this last cast, I'll probably be getting back in shape to climb again. I don't know. I don't listen to that stuff, and
It's probably because they're sitting at home watching the news, not out doing exciting things, right?
exactly.
But you hear that a lot. You hear that a lot with hunting too.
Well, and anytime there's an accident, it's called an accident for a reason. It wasn't planned. And hindsight's always 20/20. So you can always go, oh, well, why the heck did they do that? Didn't they know that this storm was rolling in? Or, whatever the case may be. Didn't they know the conditions were such? And, that's not always the truth. And, I mean, you can plan for everything, and something can still go wrong.
That's so true.
So are these the helicopter crash videos here?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, it does.
So is one of your favorite movies Cliffhanger?
We were just joking about that the other day because me and a friend were watching Touching the Void,
I don't think I've
which
seen
is
it.
about a couple climbers that climbed a yet to be climbed peak in the Andes, somewhere near Argentina, down in that Patagonia area, and it's a really good movie. And I brought up the fact that, was it Arnold Schwarzenegger or
No,
was
it was the other one.
Here's,
Oh,
here we go.
Sylvester
Here's the
Stallone?
helicopter crashing.
Yeah, they did that Cliffhanger, and that
Ooh.
was all farce. Yeah, that's a horrible crash.
What about Igor? What's the one with Clint
Igor
Eastwood?
Sanction?
The Igor Sanctions.
Igor Sanction. Yeah,
That's a great movie.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Well, it's all about the spies and Clint Eastwood is climbing the mountain with these other guys, and nobody knows who the spy is.
Ah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Have you seen that one, the Igor Sanctions?
I haven't. I'm going to have to watch it.
It's one of my favorites. And it shows him training. And I wanted to talk about training, but it shows him training like in Arizona, climbing a lot of the in Sedona climbing those big peaks. But your cast is going to come off, and then you're going to start training again. What's that training like?
Well, as I get older, training's going to be a lot less difficult, and you need to be sports specific when you do your training. So luckily we've got the Columbia Gorge here where all the trails start at the Columbia River and just go, up towards the top of the plateaus. And, just so walking uphill with a backpack on is a wonderful way to get in shape. I'm kind of a gym rat too, so I'll be doing my leg curls and whatever I could do that my knees will allow me to, weight train. But
And do you do a lot of cardiovascular? Ryan should be asking all these questions. I don't know anything about working out, but Ryan's a machine. He goes to the same gym as as Carissa. My mom doesn't go to the gym either.
Your wife.
My wife, Carissa, they go to the same gym, and they go at like 5:30 in the morning,
5 a.m.
and they do this crazy workout.
oh yeah, cardio is super important. Just all, it's all full body fitness. Whatever you can do, swimming helps. It all helps. You just have to have, good lungs and good legs primarily.
Now, I was wondering when you said you guys you camped out at what 9,000 feet or so. What's breathing like at about 9,000 feet? A little more difficult?
Well, when you leave sea level that same day, getting up to 9,500 feet it hurts. Maybe not hurts, but you can definitely feel it.
Yeah, you can tell.
And you're moving slow. But you spend the night up there and wake up the next day, you're feeling better.
I mean, because they talk about like being in Colorado when you're at like 12,000 feet. I mean, you're really, really feeling it.
Definitely.
But I would guess between that 9 and 12, it definitely escalates too, probably pretty quickly.
Yeah. For me, getting to 9,000 feet, you're just, everything slows down. You're taking slower steps. You're resting between, every few steps or even every step as you get higher. You're carrying a little weight on your back, and it definitely has an effect. But, this is nothing like climbing, the 18,000, 20,000 foot peaks. And
You don't need oxygen or anything like that on Mount Hood.
no.
I'm not trying to be funny. I have a serious question. But I've heard that if you start to get elevation sickness, that you can take Viagra, and that's supposed to help. Is someone pulling my leg, or is that a real thing?
I haven't heard of that.
I've never heard of that.
I heard that that's something with your blood.
I think the only cure is
Time
descending.
or more oxygen.
Yeah, more oxygen. And that's exactly why when they do climb the big peaks, when they climb Everest and K2, they're going up to one camp, spending a night, coming down, spending another night at lower camp, going back up the mountain, and then coming back down to another camp.
To acclimate.
They're just going back and forth to, not only take gear up there, but acclimating their body.
So Mount Hood, you don't have to worry about any of that. So how does Rainier, from an elevation standpoint, you said Shasta and Rainier are the tallest that you've climbed?
They're the tallest ones I've climbed. The tallest mountain in North America is Mount Whitney in California, but it's also 14,000, maybe 14,600. So they're all close. Rainier, Shasta, and Whitney are all on that same.
Yeah, Mount Rainier, 14,410.
So before you moved to Alaska, where did you grow up? Did you live around
I
here?
grew up in the Bay Area, California.
So you never had an opportunity to climb Mount St Helens before it erupted?
I didn't. I did not have that opportunity. I had an opportunity to climb in Yosemite, but I never did. I kind of missed that. But
Jeff Walsh I went hunting with him one time, and I said, "Man, those are nice boots." He goes, "These boots have been to the top of Mount St Helens," and he goes, "The real top."
Oh,
That's
wow.
cool.
Those are
Yeah.
old boots then.
Yeah, they're old boots. Yeah, they're old.
Pre 1980.
They were
was
old
it May,
Danners.
May 8th, 1980.
Yeah.
May 18th.
18th, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were in Alaska when it erupted.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I just got up there.
But the ashes went the opposite way. They went east, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So you didn't have any of that.
Nope.
Because you can see old pictures of eastern Oregon and eastern Washington, Idaho, where it looks like snow or it's
6 or 8
yeah,
inches of
just ash.
ash.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any desire to go outside of Mount Hood? 'Cause there's a big difference between 12,000 feet and 20,000 feet, right?
There is. There's so many mountains in America that I would, like to climb. The Wind River in Wyoming is beautiful. I'd like to get in there and climb and summit some of those 14,000 foot peaks. I'd like to just do Whitney, although it's kind of just a walk up and hundreds of people do it every day. I'd still like to get Whitney done. I want to do that one climb again on Hood.
Would you do it with the same people?
Probably not. I have others that I do it with.
Are you superstitious at all? Because I am.
I am not.
But when he said that, that's just what made me think of it like, ooh,
Yeah, no. I'm not superstitious.
like you don't always put your left boot on first before your right or anything
Nope.
like that. All right. Because I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't know that about
It started in high school.
Yeah. You're an athlete, though.
Yeah, I am.
And I don't consider that superstitious. I consider that as game
A routine.
prep.
Yeah, that's true.
Routine. Stay with doing the same thing because we're on a winning streak. Don't mess this up. Pick up your hat a couple times before you pitch. Whatever. That's not superstition to me. That's just winning games.
I've been listening to you talk, trying to pick out pieces that could relate to our line of work or business, and we've been talking a lot about having structure and discipline throughout your day, and having some sort of routine, not necessarily take your hat off and on 3 times, but it's very true too. And you get momentum going, if things are going well in your business and you happen to get there at a certain time every day, you kind of want to keep things in that same structured.
What about after your accident? So it's been how many years now?
It's been 4.
4.
Yeah.
And you have a boot on your foot right now because you just had another surgery.
I've had 9 surgeries altogether. And the main reason for that is it got infected 3 times. And nobody in the hospital, none of my surgeons, nobody wants to explain why that's happened. Maybe nobody knows, but
Just staph infections?
In reality, I guess so.
Or
Just
MRSA?
post-surgical.
See, now you're asking them the same questions I ask. No one wants to answer what it's. Of course, there was a lot of testing done, and I worked with infectious disease doctors, and
Because a lot of at that time, were you in like a rehab center?
No, I was always in the manual.
Always in a manual.
I spent one day, I think I was in the hospital for 27 days. Another time I was in there for 22 days. And, I told the doctors, I'm ready, let's take this off, and I want a prosthetic. And, then my orthopedic surgeons came in and says, no, we could save this. And so it's been a long, drawn-out thing. I literally had 9 operations on it. One of the operations, they took a big piece of flesh off my arm here and took my radial artery out.
Oh, yeah,
And they
you can see the
plumbed
scars.
that down on my lower leg to cover up an area that kind of rotted out. And so, the last operation was getting my ankle fused. So, it's just been a big challenge. And a lot of time. And, you know, I changed careers, you know, after the accident also because, you know, I lost my job because of being away for so long. And I had to, you know, I went out and got a commercial driver's license, and, you know, now I'm driving a bus for TriMet, and I have a sit-down job. So, you know, it's been a big change. And
So how has all this, the change in your career and going through that surgery, how's that been mentally?
I'm a pretty positive guy. I don't let the mental bring me down, you know, because it is kind of depressing, you know. I don't even think, you know, where I would have been with, you know, I really like the fact that I changed careers and I work for a different company and I've got different new skills now, and I try to stay really positive and keep going forward. I don't let the mental game get me down.
Was that hard during all 9 surgeries? Was there a point where you started to break at all, or were you just like, I'm going in for surgery and we'll see where it happens?
Maybe tiny, small breaks, but nothing that I felt like depressed or needing any sort of
It's
medication.
really impressive.
It's
It
really
really really is. I mean, not a lot of people can have.
It's just a family thing. We're all really positive. You know, we just keep going forward, head down, go forward.
Well, even in just listening to you talk, there's not a lot of change in emotion. It's not like we start talking about a certain part and you get excited or you get
I told you
teary-eyed
I
or
wasn't. I told you I wasn't the best speaker. You know,
hey, you're doing a great job. We're not good speakers either. You're doing a great job. So you said family. Do you have friends and family that think you're crazy, that you're going to start training to climb again?
family thinks I'm a little bit crazy, and they're concerned that, you know, they love me. They want me to be safe, and
Was it hard on them seeing you get hurt?
probably my daughter was my contact. You know, she received the phone call from, you know, the Forest Service when the emergency calls came in, and so she had to be the one to call my friends and family, and she's, you know, she's still a little pissed at me for doing that to her.
Making her make those phone calls?
Yeah, no one likes to get those phone calls. But I try to keep, you know, like-minded friends in my circle, you know. A little nutty, a little crazy, fun, adventurous. That's why I hang out with you, Cody.
Yeah.
You like to be out in the woods.
You haven't gone duck hunting with us yet. You might change your opinion after a.
You might not even invite
Morning.
me after this.
Oh no, we're inviting you. We're gonna do it, for sure.
What about limitations? Now that your ankle's been fused, what's
Yeah,
the
I don't
kind
really
of the
like
diagnosis?
to think about it. You know, I'm hoping that technology will take over where those limitations show up. So maybe, you know, the footwear, the boots, the braces, whatever it takes. You
So
know,
when they fuse your ankle together, does that mean you no longer have flexibility in your ankle?
where your tibia and fibula comes down to cartilage. That's where your ankle is. That's where the ankle joint is. So they took that cartilage out, and they fused the bottom of my tib and fib to, I forget the bone that starts your ankle. So
foot
yeah,
bone.
there's
Foot
no
bone.
flexibility in there. But, you know, it's a complicated joint, and your toes flex and your knees make up for it, and probably your hips and whatever else. So, I mean, I've been wearing a brace that basically duplicates a ankle fusion. I've been wearing it for, you know, 2.5 years, and I've been
And is that
pretty normal.
to strengthen the muscles and everything around the fusion to get
not
it?
to strengthen it, it's just to protect it.
Okay.
I think the one limitation that's pretty obvious is running. You can't run. You can't push off with your ball of your foot. Maybe I'm wrong, you know. Maybe I get on YouTube and just look at videos of athletes that have had similar stuff, and maybe you can run. But I know when I've jumped up and tried to run for the phone, you know, it's pretty much put me to my knees in the crippling, painful position.
Yeah, I bet.
So that's why I say you can't run.
You just got to keep your cell phone in your pocket.
So I know obviously when I'm either hunting or hiking, you know, my knee starts to hurt, and then you start you don't realize it, but you start to compensate for it. And so my left knee hurts, and now my right hip hurts. I'm assuming you're probably experiencing that as you've gone through all these over the last 4 years.
Surprisingly not. You know, I think about that, and other people say, man, you must have trouble with your hips the way you're walking. And I go, you know, I'm just pretty lucky as far as that goes. I try to stay healthy and eat right and take care of my body and still get a little bit of exercise in. And hell, you saw me doing push-ups over there just to get my blood flowing so I could, you know, think straight. So, you know, I've been lucky in that regard, and my hips haven't been hurting.
That's awesome.
So we're at I didn't mention this at the beginning, but we're at the Wendell Museum of Animal Conservation today, and hopefully the video worked. It didn't work last time. I don't see the red lights, so I don't know if it's working this time, but what do you think of this place?
Oh, man. You know, I am kind of a conservative. You know, I love nature. You know, I'm not much of a hunter, not because of my love for animals, but more for other reasons. So it's not that I have mixed feelings. I think this is amazing. I love museums. I love being able to see the different breeds of animals. But I'm definitely not a trophy hunter. So I guess that's where the conflict arises.
Well, it's definitely an emotional experience, even for hunters when they walk in here and see the amount of taxidermy that's in here. But Roger, who owns this museum, is one of the biggest animal conservationists I've ever met.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so we're lucky that he lets us record this here, and hopefully he'll be on. I talked to him today. Hopefully he'll be on next week, maybe.
Very cool.
So awesome story.
Thank you, Cody.
I still can't get over how calm you are about this whole thing. I mean, I don't know if I would have been the same. I mean, the closest I've ever come to an accident was this last duck season.
Cody almost blew my head off.
I almost blew both of our heads off.
Oh, God.
And I mean, it was close. It was the closest accident I ever had. It was we were duck hunting, and I was using an over-under, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a shotgun with 2 barrels. And it was when everything froze solid. And we were out, and I was shooting ammo from the week or 2 before that had gotten wet.
Oh, geez.
And so the very first shot of the day, it kind of made a thump sound, and I knew right away that the wadding got stuck in the barrel. So when you fire a shotgun shell, there's a bunch of BBs, and those BBs are held in a wadding that goes through the barrel, so that wadding got stuck. And so I took my gun apart and pounded the wadding out, and then we shot, I don't know, 15, 20 more times, and the ducks were just raining in, and the gun shot fine. And then we had all these ducks coming in, and I fired a shot. It made a similar sound, but Ryan and I both swear we saw the wadding skate across the ice.
I did. Saw it.
And we laughed about it. Like, it was funny that, you know, another misfire, and it skidded across the ice, and things were happening so fast that I just assumed that we were right, that we saw the wadding go out. And I go and I grab 2 more shells, throw them in, pull the trigger, and it was louder than I was used to. And then I go, God, I missed. So I picked back up and to fire a second shot. I looked down the barrel, and it was just blown up. And then I look over, and Ryan's laying down on the floor of the duck blind. And I'm like, oh, my God, I just killed Ryan.
No, I actually,
That's crazy.
I think I yelled some bad words because it was so loud that it was almost as if I thought Cody had shot the gun straight over my right shoulder, right next to my right ear.
I bet.
Because I immediately was like, I turned around and I was like, what? And I didn't see his gun yet. and I'm, trying to get my senses back about me because it was just deafening.
I hate that loud noise. Yeah.
And then we saw his barrel, and
We just kind of looked at each other in silence. And went like,
oh yeah, I think it was minutes of silence of just staring, realizing how bad it could have been.
and then you look at your hands, like, okay, all my fingers are there. And then I must have asked Ryan about 100 times, dude, are you okay? Are you okay? And the only damage was he had a little shrapnel that kind of skimmed his eye right here.
That's
It's
so
just a
lucky. So lucky.
little scratch,
Oh.
and that was it.
Crazy.
I blew apart a 44 Magnum revolver one time, kind of a similar circumstances.
You want another beer?
I'm working on this one, but I shot a 44 Magnum after I had, I guess, obviously jammed the barrel, on my side into the mud. It was in
Oh.
Alaska at night, and I pulled the gun out to summon my friends across the lake to come bring the canoe over. It was all planned ahead of time, and I pulled that barrel up and shot, and that barrel just blew apart.
And, yeah.
So I can only guess that I jammed some mud in there at some point during a hike on the way there. You typically carry a gun of some sort when
For
you're
grizzly bears.
for grizzly bears, yeah. So.
And it was a 44. That's a good choice.
What was your experience in Alaska like?
It was great.
Was that
I
a good time?
young, and it was great until I got married up there. I got married, and all the fun came to an end. Lots of climbing, skiing, hiking, outdoor stuff. Yeah, good times. Good part of my growing up and good part of my memories.
And how old's your daughter?
I have a 31-year-old and I have a 26-year-old daughter.
So is she as calmly crazy as you?
She's maturing into a pretty smart woman.
Yeah.
My older daughter, she had her crazy times, and they grew up. Both my daughters grew up. I took them backpacking, and we did indoor rock climbing, a little rock climbing at Smith Rock, and they're definitely had a good outdoor.
Do they still do that stuff now?
My younger daughter, we climbed Mount St Helens the same, maybe it was a summer before my accident. Again, my passion is backpacking. I love circumnavigating mountains. There's a trail that goes around Mount St Helens that I adore, and I've done numerous times with my youngest daughter in particular, and my oldest daughter only once. Or as a family, just once. Circumnavigating Hood and Mount Adams, and some really close to my heart backpacking trips. So
When you say
yeah, I brought them
circumnavigate,
up
are you
that
just
way.
walking? Are you hiking around the base?
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first experience, which is why I asked you that question, because my first backpacking trip, I was 10, and my dad took me on it, and he was the monument manager for Mount St. Helens. And
Oh,
so
nice.
he took me up there because he had to actually go check some of the trails and inspect some of the work. So it was a work weekend for him.
Cool.
And I was loading everything but the kitchen sink in my backpack, and my dad's throwing stuff out. I was 10, and I had like a 50-pound pack.
Right.
And my dad's like, you don't need like 3/4 of this stuff. And I'm like, but I need this jar of pickles.
You guys are going light and fast. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, especially with kids, you got to make it comfortable for them. So, in order for you to carry a little bit extra stuff, you really got to have your gear figured out. And I got down to where, instead of tents, I do tarps, and just cutting corners is wherever you can. Ray Jardine is actually my biggest hero in life. Ray Jardine is like the guy that started the whole ultralight thing. I mean, if you really think about it, our ancestors, that carried the skins, animal skins on their back and some rudimentary weapon, those were the ultralight athletes of the world, right?
Yeah.
Then came, the 60s and 70s where, big frame packs and people bringing, heavy stoves and all that stuff. Well, Ray Jardine was the first one, for the long distance backpackers that did, the Pacific Crest Trail and the Appalachian Trail that, got down to just using tarps and instead of sleeping bags, doing like these sleeping quilts, just driving the ounces down as much as possible, So Ray Jardini's kind of my hero, besides the fact that he's big on adventure. So he's rode across the Atlantic and skied to the South Pole and stuff like that. So try to get him on here. He'd be awesome to have.
I'd love to have him on.
Sounds like a total badass.
Has he written books or anything?
Yeah,
or
he's written books. He's got a website.
Is he from around here?
I think he lives in Arizona year-round, or,
We have to make a road trip to Arizona because
I have a friend from college that her boyfriend just climbed Everest this last year. He's a firefighter down there.
That's amazing.
And I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but really wanted to hear that experience. I mean, because I think I just saw on the news the other day, it's been one of the deadliest Everest seasons, and
that's right.
It's just people are
Since '96, probably.
Yeah, people are just passing away left and right. So the fact that he was able to go there, I mean, a lot of people go there and multiple times and never make it.
Right.
Because maybe they make it to level 1, level 2, level 3, and they don't acclimatize or whatever. And he actually made it. I think on his first attempt, he went over once and summited.
Cool.
And so
There are a lot of good documentaries on Everest, and
Yeah.
if you're into learning about mountaineering at all, or just want a super good read Into Thin Air by Oregon
I've heard of it.
Yep,
writer
I
John
think,
Krakauer.
I think I own the book and I started it. And
Oh man, next time you go on vacation or whatever, you just want a really good book to read.
just get into it.
Yeah, read that. You don't have to even. I've had friends that read it that weren't even into mountain climbing. It's just a good story, and it's written by John Krakauer, and he's a good writer.
I'll read it. I'll read it when Ryan's done. Yeah, I've heard of that book, but I haven't read it yet.
So have you ever met Ray?
Yeah, we're just reading here.
I've never have. I've read, all the books that he's written. I've ordered stuff off his website, kind of like kits to make your own gear, and I've done that. I bought sewing machines just so I could do that. So when I say he's a hero, he really is. I think he's a pretty awesome guy. He's a little bit different as a lot of engineer types. He is, I think he worked his career as an engineer, so, they can be different, and he is different, but he's just, because of his pursuits and successes, I think he's a pretty awesome guy.
Do you fly fish at all?
I have in the past. I still have a spin-fly combination that I keep, my Fenwick, an old Fenwick.
Oh,
but,
nice.
I've done my share of fly fishing. I enjoy it.
It seems like that kind of would go hand in hand. I mean, that's the first thing I would think of if I was, if you said, hey, let's go on this backpacking trip for 3 days. I'd walk into my garage and start looking at what fly rods to bring.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, all those streams you must come across and little lakes, especially around Mount St. Helens.
I have nothing else, great to add to that evening diet.
Right? Yeah. Less food you have to pack. You can eat a little brook trout. Well, let's do that. Let's go this summer. It usually starts around the 4th of July. You know where Lake Merrill is?
Yeah.
Up
Yep.
by Cougar.
Not far.
That's one of my favorite places to fly fish.
Really?
That's where I actually kind of figured out how to fly fish. Is because right around the 4th of July through September at night, so we'll get off work at 5:30, and we'll be up there at 6:37, and we'll put in a little drift boat, or you can bring a float tube or whatever. And right when the sun goes behind the hills, there's this hexagenia fly. Pull up a picture if you can, Ryan. And it's about the size of a silver dollar,
Oh, that big, huh?
and they're bright yellow.
Really?
And they spend 2 years on the bottom of the lake. And when the water warms up, when the water warms up, That one looks like it's spent because it's really look at the picture up here on the right, the second one from
Yeah,
the
I
right.
see that.
This one?
Yeah, yeah, that's what color they are up at Lake Merrill,
Oh, that's cool.
and they're huge. And so, in the summertime when it warms up, as soon as the sun goes behind the hill, they come off the bottom and they ride a little nitrogen bubble up to the surface, and then they hatch out of their cocoon on the surface, and then they fly away up into the woods, and then they come back in the morning and lay their eggs. The females do. And so there's a good year and a bad year, right? Because it's a 2-year cycle. So some summers it's decent, and then the next summer it'll be awesome. And on the good summers, on the right night, you get up there and there's thousands of them all over. They're climbing all over you. It's kind of similar to like a salmon fly hatch on the Deschutes where they're just everywhere. And you can fish all the different stages. You can troll nymphs or strip nymphs, or you can get fish emergers.
Wow.
I do really good on emergers.
Is that tide or is that a live lure? What?
I don't know what that one was.
It didn't look tied.
It looked like someone stuck a hook through it. Hex.
That's what it looked like, huh?
I tie a bunch of them. So those look like spent flies. After the females are going back to lay their eggs, which you can fish in the morning. But I've never.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a hex fly.
Tied one, yeah.
And
So that would be dry flied fish right there.
yeah, and you can dry. Sorry, Ryan, just yell at me if I'm not on the mic. Is that better? Majority of the guys that go up there, I fish that lake year round, unless it's snowed in. But everyone else goes there and fishes this hex hatch. So you can get kind of crowded in the evening, but all these people, they fish the dry flies. And these trout, what I think they do is they go up and they tail slap the fly, and then they come back and eat it, right? So they're very hard to hook, in my opinion, on the dry fly. So all, like there's a nymph there, but I'll throw out a nymph about an hour or two before the hatch. And last year I tied up these woolly buggers that were yellow. Yeah, so there's a nymph. That's a real one. I tied up these yellow woolly buggers, and then I took some pheasant tails and I wrapped it over the top to kind of look like a casing. And I would troll those around. And fly fishing community can be kind of snobby, you know. And so we'd be out there trolling around flies, and all these traditional fly fishermen would be kind of giving us a dirty look because we're trolling with fly rods. But we could do really,
under
really
an
well.
electric motor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do really well. And then the mergers can do well too, but they're awesome. There's a good picture, that trout.com one, or TroutNut. That's really similar to what they look like. So here in a month and a half or so, we'll take you up this summer if you want. And
Sounds good.
then we go up there in like August, September when the water's really low, and we'll camp on the other side. And that could be a lot of fun too. But that's the closest to backpacking, camping across the lake that I've come to.
There you go. Good stuff.
Well, I really appreciate you coming out. I know it was last minute, and I know this isn't necessarily your deal, but
It was good. It was good sitting here talking with you guys. I appreciate the invite.
I'm excited to go back and listen to this just to hear how calm you are about telling the story, you know. And if I were in your shoes, what would I do, you know? And coming that close, just because it sounds like it could have been a lot worse than what it was. And I'm sure you've had thoughts about that, right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
what ifs.
Yeah. But I just keep telling you, I
Can't dwell on the negatives or the.
can't dwell on the negative. And I am a calm guy. I've had bullets flying past my head, and people shoot at me. And driving for TriMet, you got to stay calm, and dealing with a lot of crazy people.
Were the
so.
bullets flying by your head on TriMet?
No, that's for another podcast. That was the shooting at Clark's General Store.
Oh, where's Clark's General Store? That sounds so familiar.
I used to own that. It's out in Beaver Creek.
Okay.
Yeah, someone broke in one night, and I ran down there with my double-barrel shotgun, and ended up shooting a guy. And after
Really?
I had a few bullets go past me, so
Did you survive?
and I stayed calm then too.
So I know you said save that, but so a guy came in, robbed your store. He shot at you. You shot back with a shotgun. Did he survive?
He was life flighted out of there and survived. Yep.
And then he went to jail.
Yeah, him and his brother went to jail.
Okay, so I have lots of questions because I took a really good concealed weapons course. My dad and I took it together about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was a 6-hour course, 3 hours on the range, 3 hours in the classroom.
Cool.
And the 3 hours in the classroom was way better than the 3 hours in the range because we spent all 3 hours with a criminal defense attorney. And so
That's really cool.
he went through all sorts of situations, all the way down to, let's say you are defending yourself and you have to shoot somebody. What does that police phone call look like? How do you answer the police questions? All that. So, what was that like?
Well, just real generally, I was talking to other people. A matter of fact, it was my daughter went through a concealed weapons class, and not even knowing who my daughter was, they brought up the scenario at the store
Oh, wow.
and said, back in 2004, there was a store owner in Beaver Creek that the guy pulled a gun on, and they, did the whole scenario. And Nola's going, yeah, that was my dad.
That's crazy.
And what else was there? Oh, I remember after it happened, the sheriff's department confiscated. There's my store. They confiscated my shotgun, right? And back then, I might have had that shotgun and a handgun or something. So, I got on the phone and I started calling. I called Northwest Armory, right? Because I kind of like that gun shop. I go, hey, I'm looking for just a little 12 gauge Defender shotgun, and I don't know why, but he might have said something that made me say, yeah, mine just got confiscated, right? I'm kind of pissed at the whole scenario of the good guys taking my gun away, and I'm a good guy, right? And they go, oh, is this Robert Finke? I go, yeah. So I had a little notoriety after that.
So did they sell you a shotgun?
I ended up buying one at the gun trader just because it's closer to me.
But you eventually got your
Oh,
shotgun
yeah.
back.
Yeah, I cracked open my shotgun. I go, hey, there was 2 spent shells in here. And they go, we can't give you those back.
It's
I
evidence.
go, I was going to save those.
So did you have to get like a attorney or anything to defend yourself, or was it all pretty easy?
The next week or the next few days after that happened, I was called in and had to go up against the grand jury in Oregon City, and walked in there. Grand jury is also a jury of 12, but it's different. There's no audience or anything like that. It's just the grand jury, and
you went with no attorneys. You went by yourself.
went by myself. I had a lot of support of the community. I mean, they didn't want it's kind of Old West out there, believe it or not. And, they don't want bad guys roaming the street.
Yeah.
You take some of those, you're a hero, right? So I had them calling into the Oregon City, sheriff's office, and they were just saying, hey, this guy's a good guy, and he's protecting himself, and our community's better because of him. And so I walked into the sheriff's office, and they said, man, you've been getting phone calls, and everybody really cares about, you're going to be in good hands. And so when I went down to the courthouse to go up against the grand jury, I told them the story, and they said, you don't got nothing to worry about. We're going to go after these guys. And that was that.
Easy.
But it took me 6 months to get my shotgun back, so that was kind of weird.
Well, I think you came out okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because I that class scared me, and I don't think, in my opinion, I try not to get political on this podcast, even though this is our second episode, is that I don't think everyone should be forced to take a class, but I highly recommend it. And a couple of the takeaways from my class really shaped the way I handled those things in my personal life. And the biggest one was, let's say you're carrying a concealed weapon, and you go into a convenience store to buy a pack of beer or whatever, and you're standing in a line, and the person in front of you pulls a gun on the cashier. What do? Do you pull your gun and defend the cashier, or do you not do anything? What do you do? And so everyone kind of answered, and he said there's no right or wrong answer, but you need to decide what you're going to do in that situation before you do it. And so I decided that I would only defend myself or my close friends or family if they were with me in that scenario. So if that bad guy were to turn around and point a gun at me, then that's when I would defend myself.
Yeah, it's tough. You almost need police training beyond that, because when somebody pulls a gun on you and you don't have yours out, you know, you really have to think through a lot of scenarios, because sometimes it's like, hey man, I just, you know, I go ahead, get out of here, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it takes to get them out of there.
Well, even the police training isn't always enough either. I've listened to some special operations guys that say these police officers, you know, don't even have enough training a lot of times, maybe because of
Right.
budget or, you know, whatever it may be. And so you'll hear some of these really special operations guys go, well, that wasn't handled proper at all.
I'm sure there's so many different levels of that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of I don't know, if, you know, I'm a little confrontational. So, like, when I'm on the bus, I had dispatch call me one time. I'm on the bus, and he goes, hey, your leader, the bus in front of me, is having trouble with a passenger. They had to call the police on this customer. They gave me a description of him to the T, right? So I'm riding my bus, and I see the guy at the bus stop, which is basically, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to go to that bus stop and pick this guy up, right? So I called dispatch. I said, yep, he's sitting there at the bus stop. You know, the guy with exactly as you explained him. And so I stopped, took my break, and dispatch says, yeah, well, just be real chill, don't do anything, you know, just, you know, let him on the bus, because, you know, this guy threatened the bus driver in front of you, and, you know, we had to call the police out and stuff. I said, okay. So I take my break and kind of forget about it. Oh, and then, you know, I'm pulling up that bus stop, and there he is, right? So he gets on the bus, and I go, he flashes a pass at me, and I go, hey, that's, you know, I just said, that's expired. You need to buy yourself a pass. And the guy goes, you know, I just start giving him shit, you know, and I'm not supposed to do that. This is the guy that, so, I don't know. Sometimes I do stupid stuff. So I don't ever want to carry a gun. I don't want that responsibility.
It's a huge responsibility. And
I'm just wondering, would you do anything different about the way it all played out at the store?
I probably would have wasted the guy when I had the first opportunity. Every cop. See what happened, and I don't want to go through the whole story,
Yeah.
but so can you see that same picture?
Yeah.
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 My house was behind the store.
Okay.
I had been broken into 2 weeks prior and maybe a year prior to that. And there's a house where, say, this picture was taken from. There's a house across the street that good friends of mine lived in. Basically my best friend to this day lived in that house. And I told him, I said, hey, if you ever hear anybody breaking the store, call me. Don't call the police, just call me. And so one night, 11 o'clock at night, I think I had had a couple beers, whatever, but 11 o'clock at night, and I was laying in bed, phone rings, Michelle calls, hey, there's somebody in the store. I just dropped the phone, slid my shoes on, grabbed my shotgun. I also grabbed a little revolver, stuck it in my belt, and shells in my pocket, and I ran down the stairs. And to the front door in 45 seconds. I look around the corner and the front door's, glass doors broken out. And I see a guy with a key trying to get into my safe. Well, it wasn't even a key safe, right? So right in there, I know the guy's an idiot. And so I just started yelling, get on the ground, get on the ground. And I let a shell loose and make sure everybody knows I'm serious. Just down by us, below him, so it didn't hit him or anything. And like he's, hand is in, he starts coming towards that. And I just pulled him out through the broken glass window, just threw him on the ground and held the shotgun at his head. And my buddy Travis, who lives in the house, came kind of running up. Well, what he didn't tell me is he just got done chasing a guy down the street, and he quit chasing him when the guy said he had a gun. I got a gun, I'm going to shoot you. So Travis came back, and so I thought everything was under control. We had this guy, face down, and he said Michelle's on the phone to 911, and so everything's good to me. Well, that dude walked back, and so all of a sudden, I hear this, hey, well,
So this
let
is
my
his
brother
buddy.
go.
Oh,
We
I
were
see.
just drunk, I got all your stuff. It's in the ditch across the street. And so I swung, Travis didn't have any gun or anything, and I swung my shotgun around. And from you to me, I'm pointing a shotgun at this dude right at the chest. He's talking nonsense, right? Who's obviously drunk, and they're both young, kind of gangbangers. And the guy reaches behind him, and my shotgun is safety off, here to maybe to the goat, right?
Yeah.
And he reaches around, he pulls a gun out, and he points it up, gangbanger style, up in the air, and he goes, yeah, well, we were on a suicide mission, right? And I'm thinking I could let it go, and the story's dead. I'm on his chest, all it takes, and he's still pointing his gun up in the air, just nonsense stuff. And I don't know about you, but I've been around a lot of drunk people, rednecks, and a lot of it is just threats and bullshit.
Yeah.
But I was ready to drop the guy, and he turned around and he ran into the middle of this street, and he stopped and he turned around. So then I let one go down by his feet, and he screamed like a girl, because of gravel or whatever. He screamed like a girl, and he ran all the way across the street, and he turns around, and he had, like a little 22 or, semi-automatic, and he fires 3 shots, and I was standing up on the porch, and Travis was, now Travis is holding that other guy down, and the bullets hit behind us, so I just dropped. I fired and dropped him, and he just went poof, right down.
Yeah.
And again, I purposely dropped it down, so I shot him low, and so I hit him in the hip. And when the first policeman that was there was a Malala police guy, and they pulled his pants down and his shirt up, and he had passed out. There's a big puddle of blood underneath him. I had double aught buck in there,
Oh.
and it was a long barrel, double barrel,
And you were,
old
20 yards away?
Ithaca. Yeah, maybe from here to the front door, maybe a little closer than that.
Ithaca Model 37?
I don't know. It's 50s or 60s model.
Where it ejects out the bottom?
No, it cracked open.
Oh, it's a side by. It's
It's
over
the side by,
under, side.
the old,
Those
you know.
Ithacas are awesome.
and he had pellet holes through his testicles and everything. That guy was effed up.
How come we didn't start with this story?
I don't know. Sorry. Another time.
The mountain climbing stuff was cool, but that was. I could relate to that in some way or another. But, God, shot right the testicles.
But yeah, so that was funny that they brought it up in my daughter's concealed weapons class.
So you owned this convenience store at that time?
Yeah, and I
Or
bought
is
it in 2004 with my ex-wife, now ex-wife, and ended up losing it early 2011. The economy just totally hit me hard out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. everybody hard out there. Everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
But luckily, you got me into a house, and everything's good now.
Well, I'm glad we did this because I think if we didn't do this, I would have wasted the opportunity to get to know you better. We just know each other through business. So definitely want to take you fishing and talk off air and get to know each other better. But thank you so much for coming out.
Cool.
And, I had one question. I know that's the second time I tried to end the show, and I haven't. If you can't talk about it, that's fine, too. But what about this thing that happened on Max the other day?
I'm not working right now, and I haven't even checked in with my supervisor, friends, and stuff, so I don't really have any comments or know much about what happened. I just know that there's a lot of crazy people that ride public transportation. We're transporting people that are going to their methadone clinics that need their drugs, people that are high, people that don't have anything to lose, they're homeless and high and homeless and drunk and hookers or whatever. We deal with a lot of freaking crazy people, and I've kicked people off the bus for chanting stuff like that guy was saying.
Yeah.
So I've been assaulted on the bus. I've been hit
No
and
way.
pushed.
So what it was, I just heard it on the news, so maybe you guys know more than me, but it was some white guy that was drunk or something that was harassing an African-American girl, and
I think they're more in Eastern influence of some sort.
one of them had a headscarf on
Yeah,
and was yelling racist stuff at him, right?
right.
And then two guys stepped in.
3 guys stepped in. One of them survived. He went for their throats, all 3 of them. And he cut the guy that survived. He slashed his throat too, but he survived. But he went to kill. And if you pull his name up and stuff, you can see videos of him in other protest situations. The guy's freaking crazy.
And was he like a white supremacist kind of guy?
Yeah. Super pro-American, whatever you want to call him. Who knows?
Just had some issues.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I can't even speak to it. I don't.
It was all over the national news. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of blows me away, I was in California at the time because I've been taking advantage of this being down with a bad leg, but what freaked me out even more was the guy that went into the store in Estacada carrying the head of his mother's head, severed head,
No.
and stabbed a checker or a cashier at an Estacada thriftway store.
No. When was this?
Mother's Day.
Oh my.
To me,
Oh,
that's
no.
going to go down in history with the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world,
Holy shit.
And I'm pretty sure that went national too, but that just happened in Estacada on Mother's Day.
There's some freaks out there, and you drive them around on the bus. I am going to ask you a political question. So everyone wants to replace the I-5 bridge, right? And it seems like in order to replace that bridge, Max is going to have to come into Vancouver. That's the way it's always been structured, right? What's your opinion on bringing Max into Vancouver?
I think it's a great idea. I am a big fan of Max. Hey, I don't like the fact that it spreads out homeless populations and the crazy populations. But, the places that I love, Oregon City and Milwaukee and stuff, Max and bus routes already go by there. We already have Caltrans in Vancouver that goes to downtown Portland
Yeah.
and Jansen Beach, downtown Portland, all those areas. So, you can't say that Max is going to be any worse than Caltrans. I think Max is going to totally take there's nothing better than for those commuters that go from here, that live in this area and are going to Beaverton to go to the Nike campus or going up to OHSU. These, you know, how easy is it they could take a bike or walk or drive and park at the Max, soon to be Max station in Vancouver, and, you know, taking it into downtown Portland is so perfect, easy. I mean,
Is that the kind of people you see riding Max now, though?
you see them, you see all types of people, but for the commuters, like I'll take Max into work if it meshes up with my schedule. I'll drive to the Milwaukee Transit Station, get on Max, and take that into work. And it's like, it takes that much more stress out of my day. And it's a transition period where I could sit and stare at my phone or
Listen to
answer
the Hunt for
emails
Success
and
podcast.
listen to cool podcasts. Yeah, I think it's a great thing.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if it ever happens.
Yeah.
And how much money the bureaucrats spend on making it, because we're already, $30 million into the development of the plans that never came to fruition. So, all right, I am going to end it. Robert, pleasure getting to know you better. Glad we did it over the podcast. Hopefully you can stay for another beer. I know you just finished your beer. But thank you very much for coming on.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate the invite.
Perfect. Let's do a recap after you climb your next mountain. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.